So many people. I'm going to manage expectations. I'm not here to provide you with a lot of information. I'm here to entertain you. And the reason for that is after lunch. And I feel that a lot of things, a lot of specific things have been said about how to be an entrepreneur, how to start up companies, right? I don't know about you guys, I've heard great fintech talks, I've heard great talks about the specifics of how to sell a company. So I didn't want to repeat a lot of that information. I wanted to do something different. So I wanted to talk about something very fundamental, which is that you're all here, right? We're all, who here is an entrepreneur? Could you please just put up your hand, right? Okay, the rest of you guys, you should be entrepreneurs, or I don't know, maybe, I don't know why you're, who else wants to be an entrepreneur? Okay, cool, thank you. I'm an entrepreneur. Fundamentally, I'm an entrepreneur. I don't know when I came to that realization, maybe when I was about 6.5 years old, but I know I'm an entrepreneur. And the question I wanted to ask today was, why do people want to be entrepreneurs? Because to me, it's kind of like a painful thing to do. The easiest ways to make your life. Is it because your clicker doesn't work? Because you want to make a lot of money? Sometimes, right? And for a lot of people, that is the case. But you know, in the tech world, a lot of people also feel like they also want to, clicker, change the world, right? And that's a valid thing to do, because we are so blessed to have today, oh, thank you, amazing technology, especially the mobile phone. Having a supercomputer in your pocket gives you the ability to change the world. Some people say it's about passion, right? I do it because of the passion. I think this is a cop-out. I think people who say that don't really want to tell people exactly why they do it. I'll tell you exactly why I'm an entrepreneur. And it's a very silly reason. I just like it when somebody tells me no, I just go, I'm going to do it. I'm the youngest of 3 kids. I have 2 older sisters. They all have very proper jobs. I mean, for me, it's just very simple. If you tell me you can't do it, I will do it. So when someone told me that you can't just start up a TV channel, I said, well, really? I'm going to do it. And that's a very interesting thing, because Peter Thiel, you know, is the embodiment of this gentleman here. I'm not Peter, but he definitely has his own opinion, and he definitely doesn't listen to a lot of people a lot of times. But fundamentally, what Peter Thiel is trying to do is he's trying to automate the world, right? He's trying to get automated cars on the road. He's trying to get he's trying to get people out of the equation. But to me, counterintuitively, as an investor in the technology business, it is the most people-driven business in the world. People are the most important thing in a technology company. That's why Google pays so much money for people. If you're going to build the next algorithm, well, until today we still haven't gotten the AI to do it, but it's a human being that does it. And counterintuitively, the food business is the least people business in the world, because you just get shuttled in, you get told what to do, and you know, they're all replaceable, fast food workers are replaceable. In tech, this group of people created one of the largest companies in the world. So for me, I realized that if I'm going to be a good investor, I need to focus just the product and all that kind of stuff, and you know, how to be a fintech and disruptive, but it's always about the people. And that's why I'm not an angel investor, because it terrifies me. People terrify me because they do crazy things. So what I do and how I evaluate people, and the people who talk to me, I'm always very curious about their background. And I call this the backstory. I'm always very curious about why you're doing what you're doing, right? Because you've got so many options in your life. And to me, the backstory is 90% of the whole iceberg. So I have very surreal conversations with entrepreneurs where they come into the room and then I start talking, oh, you did this, oh, you did that. And the guy, 15 minutes goes by and the guy or girl says, well, don't you want to hear about my company or my startup? And I go like, no, forget that, don't worry. So where'd you go to school? Oh my goodness, you're an immigrant from, oh, okay. So wow, why did you, oh, okay. And then later on, because we've seen so many business models, we can go through the thing and like, okay, 15 minutes, okay, you're going to do that, you're studying economics, so okay, fine, right, fine. No, it's not going to work, fine, okay, fine. But the people always intrigues me. So to be fair to everybody, I want to tell my backstory, right? Because I'm a venture capitalist. No, I want to tell you my backstory so that at least you know who I am. And if I bump into you again in this ecosystem, at least you know where I'm coming from and why I'm doing what I'm doing. Fair enough? Yeah? Let's do it. My name is Steve Jobs. No, I'm just kidding. It's not an ego trip. I was lucky enough, I'm in my 40s, I was lucky enough to have a father who was one of the first 3 computer programmers in Singapore. Full stop. I mean, they didn't even have the job description of a computer programmer. He sat for a math test, he did very well on the math test, and then they shoved him in front of a computer. And it was a punch card computer. I recently saw one of those in the museum. And so in the 80s, he brought back from his computing department, in those days, no CTO, right? So he's the head of the computing department, a computer. So how many of you guys remember DOS? DOS, show of hands. How many people remember CPM? CPM, oh yes, CPM, brother. My dad brought back a computer that ran on CPM and big manuals that were written for computer engineers. There was nothing, there's no Wikipedia, there's nothing. So all I did as a kid was just put in a floppy disk drive, and if I could access the file system and I found logo, if I could just play with the computer, that was magical to me. So I'm very much a self-taught human being. I'm trying to learn how to play piano on the YouTube right now. It's actually possible to do that. But I'm very self-taught a human being. That's my backstory. So when somebody comes to me with an idea, I always go like, how did you do that? I just go like, come on, just tell me, what the fuck? Oh, that's the chip, okay. Right, but why? What did you use that chip for? Okay. And so it irritates a lot of people, but that's my backstory. That was how I was trained. And then I listened to my father, who said, get yourself a proper career. So I said, look, listen, I'll apply to the most difficult thing ever. I'll apply to the law school at Oxford. I'm not going to get in. I applied to computer engineering. I got in. So I spent 3 years reading law at Oxford. And I was utterly convinced from that experience I will never be a lawyer. I love lawyers. They protect you. But I just want to make things. I don't want to protect things. So then, thankfully, an investment bank found us, and I joined and became an investment banker, and then 3 years later, I got transferred back to Singapore, and I became a tech investment banker. And this was like the best job ever, because I get to hang out with tech people. I'm the suit-wearing guy, but I like to look at their routers. I was a 26-year-old guy, and the CEO would be like, look at that banker, he's in the router, oh, I like him, he's so cool, he's such a tech banker. So this is really good. And then it all crashed. So I licked my wounds, but by that time I was hooked. And I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I'd spent enough time hanging out with these people to realize what they do is not magic. They just have guts, determination, and a high tolerance for pain, which I did not have. But after I did INSEAD, I said, forget that, I just want to be a TV chef. True story. I love food, I'm Hainanese, I cook. And actually there's 3 episodes of me being a TV chef somewhere hidden in the annals of a broadcasting, which I will never say because it was horrible. It was horrible, the lighting sucked, and at the end of the day, they wanted to pay me $300 per episode. The going rate, by the way, was $1,000, just to be standing around being a model. Maybe they thought I was 30% as attractive as a model, so they paid me $300. And then I got upset. And I said, well, why can't I start up a TV channel? So one of my ex-colleagues said, yeah, I'm kind of like, why don't you go do that? It's not that difficult. And it's absolutely true. I just decided one day I was going to start up a TV channel. And fast forward 10 years later, and if you have a law degree and you have an NSI MBA, venture capitalists do give you money, and I started Asian Food Channel. So I want to talk about the journey. So this girl's a little bit too fast. I want to talk about the journey. And the journey is that it took me 9 years to go from an idea Asian Food Channel to selling it for exactly 65 million US dollars in cash upfront. We got it in the escrow, and I got a little bit of that. The rest went to my shareholders. It took me 9 years. And along the way, we had a financial crisis, and along the way, I did a lot of funny things, which you can classify as failures. And failures are really hard. Nobody wants to fail, but there's a dichotomy. We have to embrace failure. I always say to people that a lot of people say failure, the path to success is always littered with failure. Well, if you think of it in a more extreme fashion and you say failure is a prerequisite for success, then the fear of failure is a fear of success. You can't get anywhere if you're not in the risk of failure. Mario Andretti once said very famously, if you don't feel scared when you're driving the car, you're not driving fast enough. Yeah. That's the only point of this slide. I like that. I always remember that. So I did this wonderful film. So before I did Asian Food Channel, I did this wonderful film. Some of the Singaporeans remember this. This is a terrible film. This is a Singaporean independent film called Talking Cock, the movie. I am actually the executive producer. This is a very embarrassing moment. Who knows how embarrassing? Raise your hand. Who knows how embarrassing? This is embarrassing. I lost all my money in this film.
Good for you.
Well, I don't want to tell you, it wasn't that much. But my bonuses from banking wasn't that much. And the reason I did this was I had a great script, the website was awesome, there was a viral thing, we thought we could channel the traffic. This was way beyond its time. And the budget was small. I realized in the film business, the smaller your budget, the higher the probability of you actually failing, right? This film is exactly funny for 34 minutes. After that, it falls apart. And we lost all our money. And I got my money from my friends, angel investors. So I had to learn how to tell my friends, I lost all your money. And thankfully, one of them is a she. She's the CEO of North Star. He's now GP in the funds, and we're making money for him. But that was a really hard moment for me. And I remember I swore to myself, this is a very big lesson. Do not freaking lose money. But I think a lot of friends also saw how much energy and effort we had put into it. So I always tell people who invest in startups, especially angel investors, be prepared that you may lose all your money. If you're not, I'm not going to take your money because this is a high-risk sport. It's for your own health. Don't bet the mortgage on the house. That's what venture capitalists are for. I know you guys are talented, you have some money. Let us have an opportunity to put money in. Talking Cock, however, taught me one very valuable lesson, which was the distributor has all the power in the media business. If you look at Netflix, you look at ABC, we got screwed by the film distributors, and rightly so, because they put us next to a small film called Spider-Man, right? That was the first big superhero blockbuster. And I realized that the distributor actually knows what is the hit content, and therefore has an unfair advantage in programming the content creation. So when I wanted to do my next media venture, I chose food. Food is actually cost-effective to make, and unlike sports, usually there isn't one key content that will ransom you. And Jamie Oliver, he still looks the same, and he still is interesting 20 years from now. In fact, some argue the younger versions of Jamie Oliver are interesting. I learned all about the economics of the media if it was not for my absolutely disastrous foray into Talking Cock. So for me, failure is a prerequisite to success. I could not have done this without the other one. And that's why when I sold Asian Food Channel, for the first time, a lot of people in Singapore Googled my name. So if you Google me, it's very embarrassing. All the photos now appear. people don't realize that it took me 10 years to get there. And it took the Property Guru founders 10 years. It took a lot of people 10 years. It took Robert Downey Jr., some of you may remember him from a TV series, and a drug addiction and prison time before he kind of got into his own skin. He was so talented, you could see from day one. But he had to journey to who he is today. So for those of you who are entrepreneurs and you're feeling pain, just know pain is just weakness going out of your body, and it's a prerequisite to success, and it takes longer. So for me, I always reflect, why did I do 9 years of pain? I feel like it was very important because it prepared me to do the thing that I feel today is my calling, which is to be an investor. And not just any old investor, but a venture capitalist. And the thing I learned about the whole game is that, coming back to the people business, mentors are the most important things in your lives. So when you look for investors or people, mentors, I cannot stress again, are the people who shape me and will shape you into whoever you're going to be, successful or not. So, not this slide yet, one more point. I always say that at the end of the day, who is an investor? An investor is a human being that just chooses to be a person who is dedicated to be responsible for your success. So your mother was an investor. Your mother fed you, your mother clothed you. I had angel investors who gave very little money, but they gave me key contracts. And then my venture capitalists just ran around not doing that much. Sorry, they're also very busy, so I'm guilty of that. But don't look at the size of the check that people give you as the determination of who the investor is. It's about the human relationship. I have one guy who gave a very small check, $200,000, but he knew a lot of advertisers in Malaysia. We ended up having more than $5 million in revenues out of him. His friends, I mean. And when it comes to the day that you need to sell the company, right? Get the best advisors. I cannot stress again, value creation and value extraction are two completely different things. Value creation and value extraction. I always told people, I know Asian Food Channel is valuable, but I know everybody just wants to buy it at a good price. Wouldn't you? And so get a good advisor. At NSI, we start thinking about a potential exit for our portfolio company 2 years before it actually gets sold. We put in the right board members, people who maybe know the companies that are going to acquire them, former CFOs of these big companies come in as special advisors. We talk to bankers really early. I know Charles talked about the exit. I think the one point he made was, you don't get a good price if you have one horse in the race. You don't get one horse in the race if you decide to start the horse race 90 days before you decide to sell the company. 2 years. I'm serious. NSI, we think about it 2 years. So when I was selling Asian Food Channel, I had, friends of mine, Shane, who was the former head of tech investment banking, and Ashish, who was the CEO of KKR, they were advising me. I, as an entrepreneur, I was freaking out. I was like, no, I'm going to be poor for the rest of my life. And, and I remember one time, the bidders walked away, and I told Shane, I said, that's it, it's over. And Shane said, get a grip on yourself. This is called a pump fake. They'll come back and they're actually trying to fake you out. I said, well, how do I know? He says, if they get back within 21 days, it's real. If not, you're screwed. Day 20, we got an email. How are things? Gotcha, you really were interested, right? We're going to sell the discovery. No, okay, fine. 21 days, lock it down, get the bankers in, extract the value. This is the absolute truth. 92% of all startups get sold to a strategic advisor. The 8%, the IPO, good Lord, it's a long time as well. So don't forget, this is another thing I didn't really realize. the person that gives you money may not necessarily be your investor. To me, a person who gives me money is